Hey everybody, Dr. Jaime here, and you are about to listen to the Dr. Jaime Show audio experience. I hope you enjoy the tips and advice in this segment. Hey everyone, Dr. Jaime here with the Dr. Jaime Show audio experience, and today with me I have Tampa Bay's Small Business CIO of the Year, Chris Jenkins, Chief Information Officer with the Symphony Agency, symphonyagency.com. Chris, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks to you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a great time. I'm looking forward to picking your brain on some tips to success and on leadership. But, I mean, you're the guy that's in charge of the IT strategies, the systems, and these impact the company's goals and objectives. So you have a pretty big job, is that right?
Well, I mean, I guess so. It's, the CIO is typically the highest technology executive in the organization, and it's a lot more than just IT infrastructure. It's also about, technology strategy across the organization.
Excellent. Okay, so I want to break the ice here before we jump and get down and dirty in some of these questions here. We got to know your soft side. Were you thrilled to be CIO of the Year in Tampa Bay's small business category?
I was very thrilled. It's I've been in technology for a little over 15 years now, and in entrepreneurial or small business technology for about 7. And so it's nice after the amount of time and work we've put in to get a little acknowledgement from the community, and great plaque on the wall, and certainly something nice to put on your LinkedIn profile.
Yes, I love it. And, for all of you young listeners out there, he threw out some big numbers like 15 years and 7 years. And just remember that there are very few overnight successes, that to be the CIO or the CEO or even in just management, it takes time. It takes sweat equity. Sometimes we get out of school and we're like, I'm going to apply for that CEO position. No, that's not how it happens.
You can become an overnight success, but it generally takes a couple of decades.
Yes, right. I love that. Yeah. So it's taken me, I don't know, 30, so at least 3 decades so far for me. So, okay. All right. Very good. So let's jump in real quick. What would you say are 3 traits of a good CIO? So maybe a company is looking to hire a CIO, or or maybe just, I don't know, in general, just what would be 3 really great traits of a CIO?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it has to be someone who's passionate about technology. The number of things that you're responsible for in a CIO or CTO role are broad. You have to understand your internal infrastructure, the equipment that you're using, the software the company is using. You have to stay ahead of security concerns and best practices in technology use within an organization. You have to be looking at what's coming down the pipe 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, 10 years out, and adjusting your company's long-term strategy accordingly. And so fundamentally, you just have to be the kind of person that wakes up every day and you read technology news and you check out what's happening in the industry, and you are just focused on it from a wide variety of perspectives. It's about the only way I think that you can stay ahead of the tide of information that you're responsible for.
Okay, so if you're like me and you can really just use a Word document or open an Excel sheet, I'm probably not going to be the next CIO of the year. Is that what you're telling me? Are my dreams crushed?
Yeah, but in executive leadership, the roles all have their own spectrum of responsibilities and expertise, but to be a CIO, you fundamentally have to live and breathe technology. I've seen some folks who were CIOs that had a background in business, and they just don't have the same grasp of technology that somebody who's passionate about it does, and they tend to not do as well in the space.
Okay. So what would be another trait of a good CIO? So they got to be passionate. They really have to immerse themselves in technology. Any other traits?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's second, you fundamentally have to be continuously open to learning, and that's something that we're set in our ways, but technology is always moving, always evolving, always advancing, and frequently you're going to be finding out about the latest, trends in technology and approaches to technology from the people who are at the front of your organization, entry-level folks, developers, support folks, and you have to continuously be open to that and evaluating that,
Okay.
People who tend to get stuck in their ways are not going to do well as a CIO with a technology focus. And then the third, I would say, is that you have to be focused on technology as a means, not an end. Technology serves a business case. And I think some CIOs tend to kind of get in their own way a little bit because they're so focused on, I've got to do this, and these are my brand preferences, and this is how I want this done. But technology has to serve the organization. And so, you really have to understand how to work well with the business case.
Now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your leadership. So what do you wish that you knew earlier? Of course, you know it now when it comes to leadership, but you wish you knew earlier. A million things, right? Because I can name off 45 for myself. So if you can narrow it down to one from the 300.
I think probably a big one for me and one that I really struggled with early in my leadership position was, you're going to make mistakes, but it's not the end of the world. I think there's such a pressure on us as executive leadership to always be perfect and always represent the company's ideals and, continuously be that sort of inspiring, voice of passion pushing the goal forward. But sometimes you're just going to screw up. You're going to miss the call or say the wrong thing or not close the deal or, whatever those situations are. And I know that there were times when, I had my head hanging down and I was like, oh, God, what is the rest of the board going to think of me right now? And it was never bad to them as it was to me, so.
Yep.
Well, and I think gracefully.
Yes, and I like that because one of the things that I educate people on are when you make mistakes, learn from it. Don't just sit there and ruminate and dwell on it. Learn from it, pick up, and move forward. And the other thing as a leader that's really hard is admitting to it. And that shows right there the fact that you brought it to your board, that you owned up to it. That's a leader. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, you can't start really resolving the issue if you don't immediately take accountability for it. Resolution begins with that acknowledgement.
Okay. So, all right, awesome. Thank you for sharing those tips on leadership. What are some tips that you can share when it comes to picking technology for a company?
Well, one of the things that we constantly see is people tend to, especially with technology, people tend to jump on whatever is trendy, whatever is, fashionable. A lot of people, pick brands that don't really make sense for the use case. I've seen, 10 or 12 low-level employees in an organization who are doing basic web-enabled tasks, and they're all using, $2,400 Mac Pros. That just doesn't make any sense. You really have to focus on the value and the use case and best practices for the organization versus, what's trendy or popular. And reach out to other people who are already in the space, get their input, get their feedback. Ignore the marketing. Just go with what you really need for the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the tip on being trendy because I think we do that in so much more areas than just technology. Of course, we do it in technology for sure. The latest iPhone, the latest, whatever game is out. I don't know. But I think we do that in so many different areas of life. We look at social media. We follow these trends, but they're not who we are, or they're not what we want out of life, or they're not on track with our goals. But because it's trending or because it looks cool, or because it attracts followers for a certain person, we go that way. But keeping your overall goals in mind, and I think you said values and best practices in mind, I think that's very important. So excellent.
Yeah, I've seen several organizations where they spent tons and tons of money to make sure that when you walked into their office, it looked amazing. But if the bottom line's not there and the company's success isn't there, who cares how nice the office looks? Fundamentally, you have to make sure you're spending the money in the right place in technology for your company.
Okay, excellent tip. Okay, so the last question I want to ask you before we close today, what advice would you offer non-technical board members for engaging with the CIO?
So 2 things. First, if a CIO or a CTO is bringing a technology concern to you, take it seriously. I mean, when we look at things like this Equifax hack and a lot of other, sort of notorious security breaches lately, there have been people along the way who pulled the alarm bell and, it just never got acted on.
Wow.
It's that person's job. It's the CIO's job to be watching those things, to bring that to the board. But it's the board's job to, take that knowledge and act accordingly to protect the organization and to deal with the issue. So, take it seriously when a technologist comes to you and says there's a real problem here we need to address. Second, understand that technologists tend to be very opinionated and, have their preferences and things that they'd like done for technology infrastructure within the organization. So if you're overriding a request or a desire from that technologist, make sure that you're really spelling it out in terms of the business case. The last thing that a CIO wants to do is argue with you about the merits of the technology, but we're always open to this doesn't work for our business strategy, and here's why.
Okay. Yeah, we need to trust the CIO when it comes to security and technology. That's what we've hired him to do. That's what we're paying him to do. So perhaps we should trust him.
And you'd be surprised how many times that's not the case,
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So, so what advice would you offer non-technical board members for engaging with the CIO? Definitely taking security concerns you bring to the board seriously. You're going to have opinions on things, and if they want to kind of argue them back, they really need to lay it out and explain why in regard to the mission of the company. Is that right?
Yeah, CIOs tend to be very, fact-based by design over emotionally based. So if you're laying out something that's overriding a CIO request or concern, then just lay out the facts and make a strong business case for it.
Okay, Chris, thank you so much for joining the Dr. Jaime Show audio experience today. I appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely. Pleasure again.
Everyone, you were just listening to Chris Jenkins on the Dr. Jaime Show audio experience. He is the Tampa-based Small Business CIO of the Year in 2017 with Symphony Agency, symphonyagency.com. Do me a favor, everyone. Go to iTunes and YouTube. Subscribe to the Dr. Jaime Show. And as always, leave us a comment with your biggest takeaway from this particular segment. You can also go to drjaimek.com for more information. Have an awesome day.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the Dr. Jaime Show episode this week. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Do me a favor and subscribe to me on iTunes and YouTube. And of course, please give me some feedback on the show. Looking forward to reading it.